just let myself go.
People started to voice their doubts that he was now alive. I was thinking about what they were saying, and for a moment, you're thinking maybe they're right. But I wouldn't hear that. Greg wouldn't give up, and neither will I.
And then I suddenly thought about the dogs, what an amazing animal that had become my sort of whole raison d'etre. And I thought, but there's a hell of a lot more I can do. And from that second, it was like, right, the fight is on. At that point, there was just such a kick in me that it was like, I'm going for it, and I'm gonna make it. And I'm not gonna, if I do die, I'm gonna die fighting this right to the bitter end.
Night comes on very quickly in Africa, and with it a blanket of darkness that provides cover for the predators. This is the time they come out to hunt.
I was trying to picture how terrifying, really, it would be, even for somebody like Greg. You would almost wish that he were dead and not have to face a night like that.
At that point, there was this total silence. I could hear my heart sort of boom, boom. It was that silent. And it made me very conscious how totally alone I was. All I wanted now was for that night to end. I had this nightmare that a hyena was going to come up behind me. I know what hyenas are capable of. Bone crushers, as they're also known. They've got the most powerful jaws of anything. I also know someone who was carted off by a hyena, and he was a fully able-bodied man, but he was sleeping and they dragged him away. That was the biggest scare of the lot, that a hyena might come up behind me.
Are you all right?
Yeah. Thanks, Norman.
Peter, the men feel like Greg may not have made it.
You'll get through this. He's a stubborn bugger.
Yeah, well, you know him better than they do. They don't think there's any point in him going out again tomorrow.
He's alive, okay? You know Greg. He wouldn't give up. I won't either.
I'll talk to the pilot and the others, see if they can give us another morning at least.
Thanks.
I was terrified to even think about going to sleep because I knew that I wouldn't wake up again. That would be it.
Then Greg's worst nightmare comes to life. Once again, he recognizes an animal by the sound its feet make when they touch the ground. He hears a hyena.
And I thought, it's coming behind me. And it's going to come right in the worst spot. It's going to come round the back, which is where I really had absolutely no control.
Once again, Greg uses his knowledge of animal behavior. He grabs hold of his stick and gets ready to hit the plane with it and create a noise to startle the beast.
And I waited until it seemed like forever. I knew if something came one step closer, then would have meant that I'd failed. Then I heard this, like, just footfall, just getting less and less and less. I remember lying there at that particular point thinking, is there anything else that's going to be chucked at me? You know, what else is going to come? You know, what other brick's going to come down?
Greg does his best to stay positive. In 1 hour, the sun will rise and he will have made it through the night. But it is one very long hour.
It was very frustrating waiting for the daylight to come. I contacted our office. We had 15 people that could come over and help with the ground search so we could cover a wider area. And they were there. They came, ready and waiting to help with the search.
I watched, looking for the sun to come over the horizon. And when it finally did, I felt these rays coming all the way towards me. And it was an amazing experience. I suddenly felt wonderful. I was bathed in light and heat and warmth. I felt secure for a moment. And then the harsh reality dawned on me that it was that sun, that burning, was going to continue and it was going to kill me.
At first light, the spotter plane sets out again. It'll make a systematic search of the places where Greg's plane might have crashed. At Peter's suggestion, Norman is on board.
He knew the area better than anybody. I really felt strongly that if anybody was going to find Greg, it would actually be him.
The additional members of the search team fan out, but they're still looking in the wrong area. It's been nearly 24 hours since Greg crashed, a deadly amount of time to be out in the African bush injured and unarmed.
You know, I was beginning to doubt if he'd survived.
Greg has a global positioning system, yet the technology is useless if he can't tell anybody else where he is. But every time he turns it on, it records the exact time.
I was checking on the GPS, trying to get the coordinates and times. And then I suddenly had this horrible feeling that this GPS was almost acting like a record of when I was still alive.